Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on Kare 11 News Now. I'm Morgan Wolf. Thank you so much for downloading Kare 11 Plus and hanging out with us today. The sun is out, but so is the smoke. This is a look from Duluth and Minneapolis right now, where you may notice a haze just hanging out over Minnesota. Right now, parts of the state are under an air quality alert because of the wildfires burning in Canada. Now, the worst air is going to be up north near Duluth. Here in the Twin Cities metro, we are seeing moderate levels right now, but the alert is expected to last until 5 p.m. on Saturday. We'll check in with our Kare 11 weather team for the very latest forecast in just a little bit. But to some news of the day, starting in St. Paul, where a state of emergency is still in effect after the city was hit with a cyber attack. It forced the city to take several services offline, including internet at public libraries. The state is stepping in to help, mobilizing the National Guard's cybersecurity arm to help get things back up and running. Something that is not impacted, the city's 911 and emergency services. In a statement today, Police Chief Axel Henry says that his department is committed to making sure that community members don't experience any loss of service, and that if you have an emergency, you should still dial 911. New video this afternoon showing how quickly water was rising and falling in Hawaii after a massive earthquake thousands of miles away in Russia. You can see the water slowly creep up on the dock and then recede in a matter of minutes. This happened several times. Now we'll have new video of that quake happening in Russia as well. Just take a look at this here. You can see doctors performing surgery when the shake started. They all stayed calm, miraculously, and with that patient under until it was over. The earthquake, though, it did create massive waves in Russia as well, flooding and some coastal communities, damaging several buildings. That earthquake triggered tsunami alerts in multiple nations across the Pacific, as well as Hawaii and the U.S. Pacific coast, after that massive 8.8 magnitude quake struck off Russia's sparsely populated far eastern coast. Now, this quake is the joint sixth strongest ever recorded. NBC's Morgan Chesky is in Santa Monica, California, with more.
Yeah, a cautious sigh of relief here on the West Coast today after this earthquake-induced tsunami triggered off tsunami warnings and watches and plenty of advisories following this 8.8 magnitude earthquake that struck off a remote part of Russia known as Kamchatka. A telling video from near that scene of the epicenter, where you can see doctors holding on to patients to try to secure them as tremors made their way through that area. This is one of the most powerful earthquakes we have seen, the strongest, in fact, since 2011. We know that in Hawaii there was incredible concern, and this created traffic jams as thousands of people tried to surge to higher ground and move inland. Meanwhile, here on the West Coast, Northern California, specifically Crescent City, which has endured tsunamis in the past, they saw a wave of about 3.5 feet, certainly nothing like what we've seen here in Santa Monica, where police were careful to keep people off of the beaches. As of right now, they say that some of these advisories have been lifted, but currents can remain incredibly dangerous throughout the day. We'll send it back to you.
A check of the markets this afternoon after the Federal Reserve hold interest rates steady once again. The move comes after a new report shows the U.S. economy grew in the second quarter. The Commerce Department reports a 3% jump in gross domestic product from April to June. That reverses a decline of 0.5% in the first quarter. Meantime, right now, the federal chair, Jerome Powell, under pressure now from the president to lower rates, something economists say should happen only if the data makes sense.
If the numbers don't give him the ammo to go out and cut wildly the way Trump does it, it would be hugely reckless. The markets would immediately come back and say, whoa, what's going on here? We're seeing the full politicization of the Fed on the largest economy on the planet.
Now, a lower interest rate makes it more affordable for Americans to borrow money, but they can cause inflation, which is already a concern because of U.S. tariffs on our trading partners right now. A host of new tariffs on several countries are set to take effect on Friday. You can find a new article every day about the current state of the economy, but there are also clear indicators right here in our own backyard that in some ways can help foreshadow what lies ahead. Take, for instance, United Healthcare's earnings and falling again below expectations. And this week, many other major companies will announce their earnings. So what can we glean from all of it? Gordon Severson fills us in.
It's a very busy week.
Even though he doesn't have students to teach, St. Thomas economics professor Tyler Schipper is staying busy this week, tracking earnings calls, jobs reports, and another meeting with the Federal Reserve.
A little bit of everything, and hopefully he's going to provide some more clarity to where we're at.
Schipper says right now the economy is basically holding steady. He expects the Federal Reserve will follow that trend on Wednesday when they make a decision on interest rates.
Good money is on, they're still going to hold off in July, but maybe early in the fall we'll see the first rate cut.
So don't expect to see lower interest rates on mortgages, car loans, and credit cards this summer. Many large companies are also waiting to see what happens with tariffs and trade.
This remains a fluid situation.
Polaris is among several companies scheduled to release new earnings reports this week. The company announced sales were down 6% in the second quarter compared to last year. The company's CEO says tariffs could cost the company around $180 to $200 million by the end of the year.
There remains an abundance of uncertainty around tariffs and the potential impact on consumer spending.
Investors seem confident the company can turn things around. The stock price was up nearly 17% on Tuesday.
We're hanging in there.
Schipper says some companies are doing better than others. Investors seem less confident in United Health Group. The company's stock dropped more than 7% after disappointing numbers were released Tuesday morning. According to company leaders, their medical cost ratio, the amount of money they pay out to consumers, is now the highest in company history. Several other insurance companies are also seeing higher payouts, so it's likely many consumers will see higher insurance premiums next year.
Insurance is a huge issue for people.
Schipper says even though many large Minnesota-based companies are struggling right now, the local economy is resilient and incredibly diversified, with large food manufacturers, healthcare, and financial companies in the Twin Cities. As for the U.S. economy,
let's give it a letter grade. I'd say we're in the C. We're passing, but things are chugging along pretty slowly. There are a lot of traditional metrics that still make the economy look good, but think about it as just getting by, just getting that kind of minimum grade that you have not to fail the class and have to take it over again.
Happening today, the NTSB started 3 days of hearings on January's fatal mid-air collision over the Potomac River in Washington, D.C. Now, speaking are National Transportation Safety Board members, investigators, and witnesses. The crash between an American airline passenger jet and an Army helicopter killed 67 people. These hearings are trying to pinpoint exactly what went wrong that night and to put barriers in place so that it doesn't happen again. NTSB officials have already said the FAA failed to recognize a concerning pattern after there were 85 near misses in the Washington airspace in just 3 years. The FAA has since then banned some helicopter routes to make sure that helicopters and planes no longer share the same airspace. Right now, the man behind one of the most notorious murder cases in Minnesota is out of prison. David Braum was released this week after spending 35 years in prison for killing his family with an axe. Lou Bergoose has the latest.
When convicted axe murderer David Braum was led from the courthouse to prison in 1989, he was told he would have to wait 52 years to be eligible for parole.
And I believe that I'm ready.
But after a 2023 change in Minnesota law, he is now out of prison on work release 35 years after his sentencing hearing. Braum was convicted in 1989 of 4 counts of first-degree murder for killing his mother, father, sister, and brother. They suffered 58 axe wounds.
At the time, he was the biggest mass murderer in Minnesota history.
Juvenile justice experts like Barry Feld have studied Braum's case. Braum was 16 when he killed his family and was tried as an adult.
What happened that could allow you to engage in the conduct and the taking the lives of your family members?
In the cloud of depression, I started to believe that other people were at fault. That fault, I placed on my parents and my family.
At his January hearing before the Supervised Release Board, Brom, whom board members call a model prisoner, said he feels ready for parole.
I'm a good example of what a transformation can look like in a person's life through the Department of Corrections.
The board believes Brom is on the right path, and work release while living in a halfway house is the final step before full parole. Brom's new location is not made public, but it will not be a locked facility. While declining to comment specifically on Brom's case, the Department of Corrections tells us some people on work release are on electronic monitoring. They all need a work plan and to meet regularly with their halfway house caseworker, and they must keep to the plan with a strict schedule or risk being sent back to prison.
That sure is a big story, and so is this one. As we head to break, some somber images coming from the home of metal today as the world says goodbye to Ozzy Osbourne. Thousands of fans line the streets of Birmingham, England, as his hearse made its way through his hometown. It is also the birthplace of Ozzy's rock band Black Sabbath in 1968. Ozzy's wife Sharon made her first public appearance since his death today, visibly emotional as she laid a floral tribute. You can see her getting out of the car right there. Osbourne died 17 days after performing a farewell concert in Birmingham along with other heavy metal bands that included Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Aerosmith's Steven Tyler. Stick with us. We have more news and weather coming up after the break.